Hello again. I'm Janer. I am with you with another video. Guys, today we are gonna talk about one of the most waited video for my YouTube channel. I know you have sent hundreds of messages. Why did I resign from Emirates? Today is the time. Are you ready? Let's continue. All right. Before starting, I know you sent, wow, Emirates is the best airline in the world. Why did you resign? Oh, how dare you leave Emirates? Do you think there's a better airline in the world? I would like to answer these questions before I dive into reason why did I resign. The first thing, do not ever compare an airline based on passenger perspective. We are pilots. Pilot is an occupation. You are not having experiences while traveling. Yes, Emirates is a great airline. I'm not saying only for customer perspective, but also from a pilot perspective. Literally one of the best paying job ever in the industry. But don't forget, there is no perfect company in the world. There is no perfect job in the world. There are some benefits, really good advantages, but there are also some disadvantages. Therefore, I had lots of reasons why did I resign. I know it's a great airline. You as a pilot shouldn't decide your career perspective based on solely what kind of benefits you have, like in the flight, oh, eating really good food, oh, you are heading in first class or business class, whatever the reason is. Therefore, before telling me, oh, Emirates is the best airline, you should ask yourself a question. From what perspective Emirates is the best airline? Yes, Emirates is a great airline from pilot perspective as well, but we are here today to talk about the other side of the frame. All right, let's continue. The first things first. I simply wanted to live in the US. Full stop. This is the really the biggest reason why did I resign from Emirates. Apart from Emirates being great airline, yes, indeed, it's really great airline. I wanted to live in US. I didn't want to live in Middle East. Don't get me wrong, I love Dubai, it's a great city. But from my personal perspective, I wanted to go somewhere where I can improve myself. I don't want to stop. I want to continue my postdoc, for instance. But there is no way for me to do it in Dubai. Or I wanted to have 15 days off all the time. There is no way to do it in Emirates. And also I would like to live in a country where you can find, sun, snow, nature, forest, all these kind of things at the same time. Of course, UAE cannot offer these kind of things. So my first reason has nothing related with Emirates, I would say in general. It's my personal choice. I wanted to live in the US. And you cannot live in the US and work at the Emirates at the same time. They don't offer you commuting contract. That was the number one reason. The other reason, Emirates is not a seniority-driven airlines. I wanted to work for a seniority-driven airlines. Up to now, I just worked for two airlines. And those are great airlines, Turkish Airlines and Emirates Airline. But the thing is, they're not seniority-driven. Let me talk about Turkish Airlines. By the way, in my previous video, I talked about why did I resign from Turkish Airlines. You can reach this video from here. Turkish Airlines, unfortunately, they hired direct entry captain to 777 and 787 and 350 positions. So what kind of seniority you can talk about it, huh? They cannot find narrow body captains from abroad, so because, no one wants to fly in that 50 sector, very demanding, very tiring work life, so they directly hire DECs. And all the seniority that you have, actually, you are targeting to reach one day to wide body captain position. If they hire direct entry captain to that position, what's the point? Same in Emirates. And they hire accelerated command, direct entry command. Though they really request lots of flying times and PICs in wide bodies, so there are not many captains in out that they can fit with these requirements. But yet, there are people who jumps in front of you in the queue and you desperately wait for your time to come. And now I will talk about what's a seniority-driven airline and non-seniority-driven airline. I will start with the non-seniority first. You think that life is amazing when you join to a non-seniority-driven airlines like Emirates and Turkish Airlines because everyone is treated equally. So you can get 20 days vacation in August in year first. and the next year you don't get it, then the third year you will get it. It's like alternating. Or you can request something and you can get it right away. It sounds perfect when you join the company, but after 20 years of being a company and yet you are doing this kind of unfavorable flights, bad destination flights, or flights that you want to do because of your personal reasons but you cannot get, that really makes you pissed off. And I ask myself, what should I do? Okay, so life is perfect once you are in 2, 3, 4 years in a company, but what will happen if you are 25 years in the company? I thought, okay, I am young, I am okay to have really demanding flights when I'm young, but once you get older, your body is not reacting the same way as you are young. So I wanted to have relaxed life, more days off, once you gain some seniority at some certain airline. However, if I stayed in Emirates, there was no way for me to have this lifestyle. I was gonna fly night Indian turns back to back many times, even if I would stay in the company for 20 years. And then I was not able to choose even 3-4 days off each month wherever I want. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about anything bad about Indian flights. Because of timings I'm talking about. Most of the flights you have turn, they start at midnight and you end up in Dubai all like morning, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever the flight is. Because of that, you have to work all night long. Of course, for pilots, this is not a good thing. No one wants to fly this kind of things because it's against your body clock. Therefore, this kind of flights are not popular amongst the pilot society. And that's why I'm saying it's not unfavorable. It's nothing about the destination, it's not about the country, but it's about the way that network is structured in Emirates. That's why I didn't want to do this kind of things. And in a longer perspective, I am okay to do a couple of things. Of course, as a pilot, you cannot choose some certain time frames, but if you are in a seniority-driven airlines, in 20 years in the company, you can control your life. Unfortunately, there is no way to control your life, rostering-wise I'm speaking, annual leave-wise I'm speaking, or you can name it for many reasons, destination-wise of speaking. You cannot control your life 100%. You could control in Turkish Airlines 0%, let's say in Emirates 30%, but there was a huge gap between these airlines and the US airlines. Actually, the other thing is really correlated with the previous one that I described, night flights. I personally hate night flights. They're not fun at all. You are like zombie. You just stay awake all night long and you work, and your circadian rhythm is low at that part of the time frame while you are working, and you are always sleepy. You're working against it, and then you come home, then you sleep, then you wake up around 3-4 p.m. and then you wasted like 2 days. So, and then it takes some time to recover, and then you go back to night flight again, and then back to back, then it kills you literally. That's how I feel. I don't know if each pilot feels the same. I want to hear your opinion as well. You can send your comments below. But my personally speaking, I don't like them. There is nothing wrong with Emirates. Unfortunately, the aviation world is designed that way. When you have a look at it from the map or Flight Radar 24, during daytime, most of the flights are towards the west, from Middle East to Europe, Europe to US. On the other hand, night flights are taking flights easterly direction, from Dubai to Asia, Dubai to India, or US to Europe, Europe to Dubai. They're like starting around evening time and end up at midnight. Therefore, the system is designed that way. You cannot escape from it. It's inevitable. Therefore, either you had to change the location, or you need to change an operator which is not exactly following that one. That's why I wanted to move to US, because I could fly domestically. Then you can have most decent flights. In Europe, exactly the same. Most of the airlines at Europe, they have curfew hours, and then you cannot have night flights. But In Emirates, it's very busy at night and there's nothing you can do it. You cannot fight with the system. And it's unfair for me to say that, oh, they make me fly at night, because this is the system. That's how company makes money, so that they can pay you salary. There is nothing that, you can fight for it. There are two options: either take it, accept it, or leave it. So that was the other reason. I had a look at the longer perspective, but I want to do it. So therefore I said, okay, I wanted to have a change. The other step is lack of career progression. I joined Emirates in a very unlucky time. It's not, of course, my fault or the company's fault. Because of COVID, everything just slowed down, and the wide-body operators are the number one who will recover the last, because domestic market returned back, but there is no domestic market in UAE. All the flights are international, and 777 at the same time is not expanding. Of course, I was fortunate enough to keep my job while COVID time, but at the same time, COVID made everything really slowly progress. That really forced me to think about my career. All right, I will give you an example. I checked my seniority. I was roughly around 900 place as a first officer, and then I had literally maybe more than 900 guys in front of me after 3.5 years in the company. When we joined, they said that currently it's 5.5 years to upgrade, but during COVID everything has stopped, and they're just upgrading literally 10 first officer per month. That made you, think about the career opportunities, because if I stayed there, it will take another 5 or 6 years to upgrade in 777. And you never know if you can make it, because they are really, really restrictive and they check everything and they can fail you for any reason. I'm not saying I will be failed. I never failed anything in my life, but there's nothing like previous airlines experiences, okay, once you reach the target, you will go to command upgrade course, then you will be a captain. It doesn't work like this at Emirates. They will check everything. Literally, if you break your leg or something, you have multiple days of sick leave, they can tell you, okay, you had lots of sick leaves, then you have to wait for another 6 months or a year. So there is no protection for that. That's what I'm trying to say. And apart from that, career progression right now is very slow, and because 777X deliveries are also delayed, they're not getting new 777s into fleet, and that makes the life even worse, because most of the projection how they're gonna grow was based on 777, talking about 777 fleet, 777X. And when you don't get these airplanes, and if you cancel the lease contracts, it is 1-2 airplanes in a year, that makes the progression very slow. Is it worth to stay here another 6 years as a first officer, go to captain position, or go to US? Because US, as we talked before, is a seniority driven. Therefore, it's not important if you're a captain, TRI or TRE here in Emirates. You have to go back and join the queue from the bottom as a first officer in the US, whichever airlines you are going for. It doesn't make any sense for me to wait here for another 6 years. Imagine right now the airlines that I joined, they're hiring 2,000 pilots a year. If I want to try 6 years after, I would be junior to 12,000 guys. I want you to tell you something you can compare. At Emirates, there was around 4,000, 4,500 pilots. And in 2 years, I will be senior to whole pilots number at Emirates Airline in the United Airlines. So it's really important to make a decision sooner than the later. They literally forced me to think logically with my current condition. Lack of career progression combined with the company that I would like to work for is a seniority-driven airlines made me decide to resign from Emirates Airline. Now, I would like to talk about the company. What I didn't like it in there, and how did I decide to resign? First of all, there was no communication. Unfortunately speaking, very senior level leadership positions like, CEO or just president, from there up to down, there is no communication at all. The thing is, for instance, they will increase the salaries, or you don't even know if they're going to increase the salaries. Then 2 days before, you get an letter and they say that, okay, your new salary is this. There's no message from upper level management. Or during COVID time, they didn't even send a letter to anyone. Oh, unfortunately, we have to, cut some jobs to keep the company working, business alive, this kind of things. Oh, this is your, termination letter, bye-bye. Or they invited the people in the training center, they said we are going to have meeting, then they gave people the termination letter. This is not fair. The communication from up to down, I didn't like it. But the communication from the fleet perspective was okay. But unfortunately, as usual, fleet manager doesn't have right to speak up about management stuff. Like you can contact with anytime. They're really great guys. I really like it. Communication should be from up to down, very clear. As a pilot or as an employee, you should be able to get current updates. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this kind of things, and I was like, well, it made me question, okay, it is not gonna change. It is always like this. It's gonna be like this. Leave it or take it. I had better opportunities in my life. I chose to leave. The other thing is it's not a pilot-friendly airline. This is my second airline. It's gonna be now I'm working for the third airline. The thing is that pilots, they feel insecure. No one can make a plan. If you ask a regular Emirates pilot, can you forecast 15 years from now on as a pilot at Emirates? They will say no. Because they are not guaranteed a job there. Okay, you have an open-ended contract, but the problem is, if you make a small mistake, depending on the mistake, they can fire you, they can send you simulator, and their training department is like a checking department, not training. There is no such a thing called training department. This is unfortunately speaking. Everything is like notes, grades, grades, grades. Now they chose the EBT. That doesn't change anything. They are now tracking objective achieved additional training. Most of the pilots, maybe they can agree or disagree with me, but from my personal opinion, I totally disagree with the idea that there is no training philosophy at Emirates. Unfortunately, they think they do. But as a guy who worked as a research assistant, as a in the flight training department, and as a guy who worked as a ground school instructor, as a guy who had a master's degree in flight training, as a guy who had a PhD degree, I know what is training and what is not. If you take a pilot in the training and then you say them, if you need to repeat your action, then you will get objective achieved additional training. And then if you use this objective achieved additional training results for their future evaluation, oh, see, you get a couple of objective achieved additional training. Now you are not skillful, you are not capable of things. So I could ask, where's the training here? Unfortunately, when they introduce EBT, they're like, okay, you can repeat a couple of times, it's not important. But at the end of the day, if you achieve the standard level, you can get objective achieved. From that angle, they shifted their approach to if you repeat anything, it's objective achieved additional training. Okay, but then don't use these kind of things against a pilot. That's the thing I strongly disagree, but unfortunately, this is the company's perspective. The last thing, since there is no union, your contract somehow is not protected. I'll give you an example. When I joined Emirates Airline, I signed a contract. In this contract, everything was clear. And during COVID time, they altered the contract, which is okay because the company is not making money and company needs to earn money to pay your salary, right? I'm perfectly fine with that. But I woke up one day, your probation period is extended, blah, blah, blah. Why? They don't even communicate because of these reasons. We have to do this, do that, blah, blah. They don't need to justify. They don't need to let you know. They just send you an email. Okay, no problem. Your salary has been reduced by 50%. Your telephone allowance is now gone. And then we are not going to pay your own simulator. During COVID time, those kind of changes can be okay, no problem, because if the company doesn't make money, so you cannot be employed there. I'm perfectly fine. But after COVID, they just gave us 1 month bonus. The rest 6 months that we have been taking 50% off, they didn't return the money back. And also, for instance, since ever COVID, I didn't get telephone allowance. It was in my contract. They changed the contract. They don't even need your consent to change the contract. This is your new contract, that's it. And also, they don't pay your simulators that you join. So They're now making huge profit, but yet they didn't return it back. And during COVID time, again, we get paid nice. I cannot complain about that. But what I'm trying to say, your contract can be changed up and down, left and right. But as a company, you set minimums. When you go below these minimums, you need to justify yourself. At least that's what I believe. That was the other reason. Unfortunately speaking, these things, contracts and everything can change, make me question my future career. I wanted to go an airline where there's a strong union. At least your contract is respected for some certain time frame. You know that you can have and you can make plans. Since there is no union, there will be no protection on that. Okay, I should ask these questions to myself. There was a union at Turkish Airlines. There's no union at Emirates. Yeah, but still I would say that work life here at Emirates is really great compared to Turkish Airlines. There is one union at Turkish Airlines, it's so-called union. Absolutely, they don't do anything in favor of pilots. They don't do anything. But Emirates, they have really great working conditions. I cannot complain. I just listed my reasons why did I resign in that decision-making process. If I didn't have an option to go to, US, I would stay at Emirates happily. Those reasons for me, it's just a reason because I just wanted to give you my opinion about it so you can have a rough opinion about it. But don't get me wrong, Emirates is a still great company to work for because you are having really great salary compared to rest of the world, and also good allowances, opportunities, lifestyle in Dubai, which is really great. But unfortunately, I have to talk about the bad stuff as well, and this was one of the things that I wanted to mention. All right, guys, those were my reasons why did I resign from Emirates Airline. Don't get me wrong, again, I really loved my 3.5 years at Emirates. I improved myself a lot. I really appreciate that I worked for Emirates Airline. That was a great 3.5 years in my career. But I had to make a move because we are living in a professional life. We are living in a professional world. When they didn't need us, they fired half of the company. But if I have a better option, why not to go there? There's nothing wrong about it, and they don't see this as a wrong as well. That being said, guys, that concludes why did I resign from Emirates Airline. I hope you enjoy the video, and it's now your turn. Please go ahead, send your comments. I will read each of them and I'll try to answer honestly. Alright guys, before going, as usual, please don't forget to like my video, subscribe my channel and hit the bell button to get the notifications. See you in the next videos. Bye bye.